Hello and welcome. Carrie here from Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. And today I am thankful, grateful, blessed to welcome my friend Diane to the channel. Boston Carnivore Diane lad, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Carrie. Thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. Diane and I did a video together many months ago. And Diane also has her own YouTube channel now, which is amazing and exciting because you have one heck of a story. Diane's YouTube channel, I do have linked to in the description below. And we're going to talk tonight. We're going to talk about carnivore, answer any questions you guys may have. So if you have any questions, please post them with a QQQ. And while people are still jumping on here, Diane, we always do this thing. We'll do a little giveaway. We'll give away a Healing Humanity shirt tonight.
All right.
So here's the Healing Humanity shirt. If you have a question for Diane or myself, whether it's just a regular carnivore question or something about MS, please post it with a hashtag ribeye. Hashtag ribeye. And we'll draw for a Healing Humanity shirt and give one of those away. And let me just see here. Hashtag ribeye. One other thing I wanted to mention quickly is, I don't know if everyone heard this or not, but I was talking to Ellen yesterday, who's good friends with Old Guy Carnivore Mitch. And unfortunately, yesterday he had a stroke and ended up in the hospital. So I posted a thing on my community tab yesterday. It sounds like he was doing okay because Ellen said she could hear Mitch speaking in the background, talking about carnivore to his nurse. So, but I had a lot of people asking me in the meantime, and that was the last update I had. But Ellen said to, unless something came up in the meantime, because I've been pretty busy the last couple hours, if anyone knows, let us know in the chat. But Ellen said that they would post some updates in the chat of Mitch's last live stream that I think went live yesterday or the day before. So
now, Carrie, he spoke in Tampa, right?
He did.
Okay, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's the best. And he suffered a brain injury several years ago. So they think that that might be what caused the stroke. But they had to do additional tests, and that was the last I heard. So if anyone has an update, please post it in the chat. Otherwise, make sure you go subscribe and turn on notifications at Old Guy Carnivore Mitch. I'm sure he'll be providing an update soon, or we'll hear from Ellen in the meantime. But Mitch is incredible, and we all wish him the best. It was really fun seeing him. You got to see him too out in Tampa.
Yeah.
I knew he was coming, and it was kind of a surprise to everyone that he spoke. I'm so glad he did. I think Kiltz kind of asked him at the last minute, "Hey, do you want to get up and speak?" And he knocked it out of the park. It was so good.
He wouldn't stop talking. He's up there. Going to get the cane and
right.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Great guy.
All right, so looks like we have some questions coming in. Please post your question, hashtag ribeye. I just got to press one more button, and then I want to make one other announcement real quick. We have a big meetup coming up. Diane just mentioned our meetup we had in Tampa, and I'm going to another one 1 week from today in Austin, Texas. And there's a couple tickets left. If anyone is interested in joining us out there, it's going to be a heck of an event. We have, let me show you guys the lineup real quick. So if you're interested in getting tickets for that, healinghumanity.movie/events. And there's the lineup. We have the Texas boys, Adam, Laura Knight Hughes, who's a great YouTuber. Dr. Kiltz is coming to that one as well. Nia from Nia's Way, and Pastor Jimmy and Annette. But wait, there's more. My daughter, all three of the triplets are all coming with, which is really exciting.
I wish I was going.
Yeah. And Emma's going to be speaking. And I keep joking with Alyssa. I'm like, I'm going to call you up there. I'm not going to really do it. She knows I'm joking because I don't know. At her age, I would have been terrified to speak in front of a group of people. Alyssa's really doing wonderful on carnivore, but she's not very excited about getting up in front of everyone speaking. But she will be there. Yeah. She'll be there mingling and chatting and talking to people. So I might jokingly say, next up, she's been preparing her speech for 3 months now.
Don't do that to her.
No, I won't. I
That's
won't. I
not
won't.
nice.
It'll
She'll
be a
run out
lot
of
of
the
fun though,
room.
right? That's what she said, Diane. She's like, if you say anything like that, I'm going to get up and walk right out. And I'm like, that might be actually kind of entertaining. But so healinghumanity.movie/events. I think I mentioned too, the Texas boys are coming. These are my friends, the Texas boys. They're a family of 8, and all of them are doing carnivore. And they're
Wow.
thriving. And so TD and Faith, mom and dad, are going to get up and share their story. So that's what it's all about. We do these meetups, and we have individuals get up and share their inspiring story and network. And we got a big lunch at this one too, a brisket lunch right in the same area. So it's
Wow.
going to be a lot of fun. So if you guys are interested in joining Meetup with us, we really appreciate it. All of the proceeds go 100% towards the documentary, so we can continue filming the documentary. So with that said, Diane, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, you guys all got to go subscribe to Diane's YouTube channel. We were talking about it at our last meetup in Tampa. It's relatively new, but you've got your own incredible story. You've told your story before on my channel, but would you mind just briefly, just for people that aren't familiar with your story, giving us a little bit of background?
I'll give you some high points or low points. It's a long story. So 9 years ago, almost to the day, I was diagnosed with MS. And it was right at a time when I was starting my own business, getting going. So, you know, it was really tough, and it was more of the idea of it that was tough rather than the symptoms. The symptoms are troubling. You know, I had symptoms of speech issues. I had symptoms of dizziness and balance issues. But the whole idea of this being a progressive disease, there is no cure for it. There are medications for it, but the medications do not cure it. And that was the most upsetting thing. And went to the doctor every 6 months, took the medications, and it wasn't until 2022 that it really hit me hard. And I had like a sudden downturn of extreme fatigue where I had to close my practice and I had to stay home. I was slowly becoming disabled, and it was very, very scary. So that lasted for like a year and a half until I found carnivore. And I found carnivore. My carniversary, Carrie, is next week, the 5th.
Oh,
So
nice.
it'll be 1 year on carnivore on March 5th. But I started it. Yeah, I started listening to videos on probably around the January 1st of 2024. But it took me 3 months. It took me 3 months to wrap my head around giving up. See, I was always eating pretty healthy. I didn't eat a lot of carbohydrates. I was basically doing keto for a while to see if that would help, and it helped a little bit. But I couldn't put my head around giving up the vegetables, and why would that be healthy? And I struggled with that for a good 3 months. So I understand your wife, Jen. I understand how she was with that because it's a tough thing to wrap your head around, right? So since then, I've been kind of applying what I know as a mental health therapist to this thing, and I call that stage 1. I call that carnivore is crazy because that's what you think, right? You
Yep.
think this crazy thing of eating just meat and butter and eggs, and it's going to make me healthy, where they told me those things weren't healthy. So I struggled for 3 months. And then on March 5th, 2024, I made the decision that I was going to try it because you know what? I wasn't healthy. They were saying it's going to make you unhealthy if you eat that stuff, but I wasn't healthy, Carrie. So why not give it a try? I tried it for 30 days, and that was a year ago. And really, after 3 weeks, I started feeling the difference. It was totally amazing. I felt almost like when I opened my eyes 3 weeks later, the sun was shining brighter. I felt lighter. I felt more energetic. You know, I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to take a walk. Whereas those things were a struggle like the day before. It was instant, 3 weeks. So I call them carnivore gifts, and the carnivore gifts kept on giving. Day after day, I kept on getting more relief. I was feeling more balanced. I was feeling less dizzy. I was feeling like I wanted to talk to people and socialize. I was feeling there's this syndrome called Autoimmune syndrome that comes along with MS, and where you cannot go out in the heat and you feel very fatigued when you go in the heat. It went away one day. I'm out there walking in 85-degree weather and I'm feeling fine. So these gifts kept on giving every single day, so much to the fact that if I didn't write them down, I wouldn't remember how I felt. And even to this day, I'll say to my husband, "Was I really that sick? Am I just faking it?" Because you forget, you feel so good and that feels normal. So if you don't take time to remember where you came from, where you're going, it's easy to just dismiss it. So that's my story in a nutshell. So
I love it. You know what's so interesting? I didn't realize your timing, but Jen is right behind you.
I know she is.
We were
I was
just talking
cheering
about this,
her. I was cheering her from the sidelines. I was
right?
like, "Jen."
She's March 22nd, so a couple days
Yeah,
behind you, week or so behind you.
yeah.
Wow. What has it been like for you mentioned your husband. Is he kind of like amazed by this, or what is it
He
what has it
is.
been like from his perspective?
He is. He's very supportive. He's amazed, and he's not entirely carnivore, but he's really, really, really close. He's keto. Like every once in a while, he'll have a vegetable, but really, he eats what I cook, which is really nice because I don't. I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to cook vegetables. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. So, so I'm glad
I
that
draw the line there as well.
yeah. So no, he's amazed. He is he backs me up when I talk about it, because I think people hear me and they look at him like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's true. It's all true, you know? Um, and I'm so happy that I have him, that he took this journey along with me and he knows at my sickest what I was. He was with me at all the doctor's appointments. He was with me when I was sitting on the recliner day after day after day and just like, I can't get up, I can't get up, I can't get up. And just feeling like, um, I don't know, Carrie, it's like someone has their hands on your shoulders and they're pushing you down, and just to get up and move around is so, so difficult. And it's hard. It's hard. And
Mm.
I feel so deeply for people who feel that way. And I know that MS isn't the only autoimmune disease that has symptoms like that. Most autoimmune disease have a fatigue component that if you tell someone you're fatigued, I don't think they understand it unless they have been there. They're like, "Oh yeah, I was tired. I'm tired." But it's totally different.
Right. Here's a question. Can Diane talk about the stages of MS diagnosis and where she was when she got her diagnosis, like how far along?
How far along? So when I was diagnosed, the main symptom that I was having, believe it or not, was I was having trouble speaking. It's kind of like God got me right where I, what I love to do, right? So not God, but something got me right where it hurts, and I would go to speak and I would get like a numbness on my tongue and in my lips. And I was doing pretty well. At the time I was going to school full time at BC, getting my degree in social work. So I was getting up early. I was doing a lot. I was doing more than I ever did. But it was that one symptom that was very troubling. And that's why I went to the doctor. And that was in 2014. So they were supposed to watch it. He said, let's just watch this and take another MRI in 8 months. So it wasn't until 2 years that I was diagnosed with it. But during that time, I also had dizziness. I also had like a vertigo feeling. I was always walking. I was always mobile, so I'm very, very fortunate. But the symptoms were just very obscure. They were very different from each other, and one would come and then it would remit, and then another one would come and it would remit. But with the word remit, I don't mean go totally away. It would get less. But it seems like the symptoms were coming on one on top of the other. And I was always at the gym exercising, and I had difficulty exercising because when I would get my core temperature up high, I would just feel like rolling up in a ball. I was just felt very, very ill, very fatigued. I'd have to leave the gym, and I couldn't do yoga because I couldn't do inversions upside down. I would get super, super dizzy. So all these little things were affecting my life, not as um, not as terribly as a lot of stories I hear about people becoming numb on one side, um, and and having inability to walk. Um, However, when they give you the diagnosis, that is a possibility. So that's always in your mind. This may happen. I was fortunate that it didn't, and I got on some medication pretty early on, and that kind of kept me stable. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, we got a lot of questions and comments coming through. We got Dr. Kiltz is here. Hello, Dr. Kiltz.
Hey! Hi,
And
Dr. Kill.
we got all the good doctors. Dr. Nelson is on here
Woohoo!
also. We all love Dr. Kiltz. Looking forward to seeing Dr. Kiltz down in Texas soon. Hey, speaking of meetups, if you guys can't make the Texas meetup, Dr. Kiltz has several meetups coming up as well. If you go to drkiltz.com, or I think it's kiltzmeetup.com, check at a city near you. Besides the Texas one, we're also going to be in Tennessee and Washington.
Oh, that's awesome. And there is a Boston meetup on the horizon somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we've officially announced it, but
Right?
yes.
I'm just giving you a hint. It's just
Yes.
a little teaser.
Right? So everyone check that healinghumanity.movie/events, because I think this week we're going to be making some big updates to that as well.
That's great.
There's more and more being added.
It's exciting. And if someone hasn't been to a meetup, I'm here to vouch that they are amazing. I've been to 2. I went to Wisconsin to meet Carrie. I had to meet this guy. I was like, I got to meet this guy. And I went there. I met him. I met Dr. Kiltz, and so many people, and everyone was so warm, so friendly, so energized. It's just an amazing electric atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then when it was really cold here in Boston and they said, it's going to be one in Tampa, I'm like, I've got to go. I've got to go someplace warm. I'm going to Tampa. And I met everyone in Tampa, and it was like meeting old friends.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing thing that you guys are doing. It's wonderful.
Oh, I appreciate it. It was so nice seeing you in Little Montello, right here where I am right now.
know.
Little Montello movie
I
theater.
know. I took a picture of myself outside your theater. I was like, oh.
And then in Tampa too was awesome. There's something about it. I always feel like I'm overhyping it, but I don't think I am. And I'm not just saying our meetups, just any carnivore meetup. I always try to put my finger on it, Diane, and I think it's I heard Nia, who's speaking at the next one. I think Nia was talking about this after the last meetup. She said something like, you're in a room with people that have all been through something very difficult. I think there's camaraderie when you're in in that situation. People that have overcome something really, really hard. There's something to it. I don't know. The energy. It's just like you said. It's like you're in a group of old friends or something. You walk in. I was like, "Hey, Diane's here! Yeah." Everyone's happy. Everyone's excited. It's good stuff. I'm hooked on them. Jen's been talking about doing another one here. She really is excited about this more now after going to the one in Tampa. So she's gung-ho. It's interesting because Dante and his wife Katie came, and afterwards Katie's all fired up now too. Which is great.
Yeah.
She did a video with Dante the other day. She was on our live stream on Thursday, and similarly, Jen's getting more fired up too. And she's like, maybe I'll just arrange a meetup at Montello Theater. I'm like, yeah, do it.
There you go.
That'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. So
There's a lot in Wisconsin. There's a lot of carnivores in Wisconsin.
yeah, and you know
Carnivore
what's crazy?
country.
There's so many more that have been coming to the theater, and it's interesting because some of them, the one that you attended was amazing, but we also did one other one before that, and it was we did it completely for free, and it was more like keto carnivore, interested in losing weight. Like the doors open to anyone, and we actually had several people come in that they were overweight and they didn't know why, and some of them knew a little bit about keto, but some of those people have actually become carnivore and still come back to the theater now. There's
Wow.
regulars. It's crazy. I
Oh,
never would
that's
have thought, because
something.
we're in a town of 1,400 here. It's like a really small town.
Yeah.
But we've several people that come in that are carnivore now, and it's so much fun talking to them. There's this
Oh,
one
that's
lady that
awesome.
came in. She gave me a cookie cutter, and I'm like, wow. And it's shaped like this. So it's the Dr. Berry finger cookie cutter. And she's like, you could put meat in it and make like a meatloaf,
Yeah.
like Dr. Berry finger. I'm like, that is the most awesome and unique gift ever. Thank you. So, all right. So Andrea is asking, is there a meetup in Boston in May or June? Well, there is a meetup in Boston eventually. I'm trying to remember when the
I
date
think
was. I don't know.
they're shooting for the end of June. I'm
End of
working on it
June.
with Alia and a couple of other people.
Stay
So
tuned.
stay tuned. We're shooting. I think the tentative date, if I'm allowed to say it, is June 28th.
June 28th. All right.
Tentatively. So we're working on speakers and working on finding a place to have it and all of that. So there's a lot to it. But
Boston, man, maybe
yeah.
he's so busy, but the first thing I think of is have Professor Thomas Seyfried. That would be
Yes.
an
Yes, me
amazing
too.
speaker to come out.
Thomas Seyfried, Georgia Eade, Chris
Yes, her
Palmer,
too. Her, wow.
Nick
One,
Norwitz. Nick Norwitz.
all of them
All
would
from
be amazing.
Bostonian.
Any one of them. Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot. Dr. Eade
Yeah.
too's up there. Oh, she's incredible. We had her on our membership site the other day on Wednesday night. And I love her from the beginning because depression, anxiety is just a big
Right.
part of my story. And when she wrote that book, but she came on our Wednesday night expert Q&A that we have on healinghumanity.life for the members. It was like a master class. It was so good. I'm like, I've heard
She's
a lot of
brilliant.
this stuff before, and she was saying stuff that I'm like, wow, like, I gotta write this down. This is really helping a lot of people. So, oh, that's exciting. And we gotta figure that out.
Yep.
There's a lot of meetups coming up. That's gonna be great. Adam and I were there a couple months ago. I'm trying to remember what it was, to film Professor Seyfried, which was just surreal. I can't wait to share that story with everyone in the documentary.
I know.
We got a couple new members, Fort Bacon, love the name, and
Love it.
NM. Thank you for your membership. All of the proceeds we get from memberships go towards the documentary. Patty asked if there's any update on Mitch. I mentioned that earlier, but I'll check in the chat. I'm sure if there was any other updates, people will be mentioning it in the chat. Speaking of meetups, Pa Beater is going to be in our Yuma, Tennessee meetup, which is in April. And that is on the healinghumanity.movie/events page.
Wow.
And there's a possibility, I shouldn't say this, but there's a possibility that Dr. Berry might be there as well. Dr. Kiltz is going to be there.
Oh, wow.
So it could be a pretty big one. We're working on
Yeah.
the logistics of that one. We're going to be filming Dr. Berry as one of the final interviews, wrapping up filming the documentary. So, all right, we've got a couple questions here still. Michelle is asking, how come I can't lose any weight on carnivore? I've got my sugar down well, but my body won't lose weight.
So her sugar is down, and I'm wondering if she had diabetes. So I know that when your body is healing, that the weight comes after that.
Yeah.
That's what I find anyway, and that's what I've heard from others, that your body can only do so much. You're asking a lot of your body. You're asking your body to heal things that perhaps have been going wrong for many, many, many years. So the body is taking priority to heal what is wrong or what is ailing you, and then the weight will come off. That's what
Yeah,
I'm told anyway. And I think women, for some reason, have more trouble with that than men do.
I am with you 100%. And that's a good thing too, right? It can
Oh yeah,
get discouraging. Like, I'm not losing any weight, but if your body is healing maybe decades long of trauma, who knows what trauma.
right.
My wife Jen, who we were talking about, she's on her own journey. We did a video the other day and we were talking about this a little bit. I'm like, you delivered triplets. Like, what kind of trauma is that? Of course, carnivore is easier for me than it is for you. You delivered triplets and you were vegetarian most of your life. So everyone's going through their own thing, but your body is probably prioritizing the healing. My
Yeah,
friend Dr. Kiltz is on here right now. I know what he'd be saying as well is that being overweight,
it's not a disease.
not a disease, not
So, you
not
know
an
what I
issue.
would recommend, Michelle? I would recommend recording all your non-scale wins. Anytime you have something like, "Oh, I don't have that indigestion anymore." Write it down. "Oh my goodness, I my A1C has dropped so many points." Write it down. Write down everything that you're feeling. When you feel happy, when you feel less anxious, take the time to write it down, because that's what your body's doing. Your body's healing, and you have to it takes time. It takes time. And just stay the course. Stay doing what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And the only other thing I'll add is if maybe your body has already healed and you're still kind of just stalled out, a lot of times from what I found is that dairy or cheese can cause
Yeah.
people to kind of just stay in the same spot for a long time. I've heard that literally thousands of times at this point with all the
Mhm.
comments I've been getting over the last 2 years on my YouTube channel. Usually someone will say, "Hey, I stalled out in carnivore. What the heck's going on?" And then in the comments, the next person will say, "Are you eating cheese?" And then there'll be like 100 comments under that where they're all like, "Yeah, cheese stalled me out. Dairy stalled me out. Dairy caused me to stall." So the last thing on
I
this,
can't eat cheese at all.
yeah,
If I
me,
eat cheese, my fatigue comes back the next day as well. So it's
right?
not only the weight stalls, but the fatigue comes back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did cheese when I did keto for years, and it stalled me out, made me just feel kind of crummy and inflamed. And so I haven't done any cheese on carnivore, but cheese and heavy cream I think are the two big culprits
Mhm,
for a lot of people.
mhm.
Uh, the last thing too is we've got Bob Eater on here. We've been talking about this quite a bit. In fact, I want to do a whole video on it, and that is the weight only scale can be very tricky. It can be a very dirty tool to use for carnivore because you can be making good. There's a lot of people that have been actually making really good progress and they look on their weight only scale and it shows no progress whatsoever because
Mhm.
your body composition changes on carnivore. You gain muscle, you gain bone density, you lose weight. You look on the scale and it shows a big fat 0, but you're actually healing your body, maybe gaining muscle and bone density and losing weight, which is incredible progress. But you look at that weight only scale and you see a big fat 0 and you feel like you're failing. And then so people give up and they're actually making really good progress. So the smart scales, the
Yeah.
technology with those, they're like 20-30 bucks now too. You can get them on Amazon. Bob Eater was talking about this. We had this kind of epiphany on our membership site where he was saying, I've actually lost more when you look at the fat that I've lost, and then
Absolutely.
you account for the bone density and the muscle changes. There's actually more loss
Yep.
when you account for those things, and a lot of people don't account for those. So
So Carrie, I have one of those scales, and for some reason, it just made me stepping on it like once a week made me crazy because you don't lose and gain muscle that quickly. But I did take a DEXA scan a year ago, so I'm going to take another one this year. And
right,
another thing is I measured myself, so I only lost 15 pounds throughout this whole thing. I didn't do it for weight loss. That was just kind of like a side effect. Um, However, I did my measurements, and I just recently took my measurements. I lost 14 and a half inches in a year. Actually
wow,
less than a year, because I didn't wanna measure myself when I first started, so I waited, like, a couple of months. So, like, in 10 months, I lost 14 and a half inches. So, I have to have been gained muscle and lost fat, and if I just went by the scale and didn't put my non-scale wins, write them down, I would be so discouraged. but once I measured myself, I was like, whoa, now I feel better. So, and then I'm going to get the DEXA scan in a couple months, and because this is a long term. This isn't like, I have done so many diets like you, Carrie. I have done so many diets where I'm like, okay, this week I lost 7 pounds. Next week I only lost 2 pounds. And, just wanting to see the weight all the time. That doesn't matter to me anymore. What matters to me is how I feel. Like, I have a whole different mindset around it. The weight is actually the inches, not because I didn't lose that much weight. I only lost 15 pounds. I mean, I could have lost that in 2 weeks, right? Not a year. I could have done it in 2 weeks, really. But it's the non-scale wins. It's how I feel, and I am smaller, obviously, if I measure smaller, and it is what it is. I could have been up and down that same 15 pounds all year, yo-yoing. And that's the other thing, is like, carnivore cures yo-yo dieting.
Right.
You don't yo-yo.
And by the way, no other species of the millions of species on this planet yo-yo other than humans. Because when you go on carnivore, you're just eating naturally, and your body goes to its natural weight, and everything's just nice and natural. That's really awesome about the inches that you lost and that you measured it. That's advice I give to everyone, and it's advice I didn't take and I wish I would have. Is you can get one of those little tape measures for a couple bucks, like $3, $4 on Amazon, and it's so much more encouraging doing it that way. I bet you Michelle probably has lost inches as well, but it's not reflecting on that weight only scale. So
I went back to my records, and I started measuring myself when I had already lost 7 pounds. So I only lost 7 or 8 pounds, 8 pounds and 14 inches. So that's got to be fat loss and muscle gain.
Right. It's encouraging for all the new carnivores out there if they take our advice. I'm like, man, if I could go back with some of this advice that we're giving people now, have your important why, write down specifically, and measure other things like inches or a smart scale versus a regular scale. I think will help a lot of people out. All right. That was Michelle's question. John, we're getting lots of meetup questions tonight. Will there be a meetup in Ireland someday?
Ooh.
Someday. I'd love to say for sure, but we don't have anything in the immediate future planned for there. We were out in the UK, and Dr. Kiltz amazingly flew all the way out to the UK to come to our UK meetup. But John, when we get the documentary launched, we're planning on touring hopefully all over the world, and premiering it and doing a meetup in different cities everywhere. So hopefully we can get back out there at some point. We keep telling people too, John and anyone else listening that's fired up, like, hey, do a meetup in my city. If you have boots on the ground and maybe you do little local meetups, connect with us. You can go to healinghumanity.movie. There's a little contact form. That we're totally game to do it. The hardest part of doing these meetups, and I'm so thankful for Carnivore Brothers Ashley, who's been organizing all of our meetups. So it's like a full-time job, the logistics and trying to figure all of this out. It's really hard if you don't have someone in the area, like finding a good location. Is this going to work out? Traffic, parking, all of that stuff. So let us know, John, if you've got a contingent of carnivores out there and boots on the ground. We're definitely interested. Who's Your Carnivore said, let's get Diane over 1,000 subs. She's at 594. Yeah, let's go. Click on Diane's channel. There's a link in the description. That would be so cool.
He made an announcement in Tampa. He was sitting right next to me, and he stood up. Nice. Thanks, Brett.
Hey, I'm all for it. Like, everyone go subscribe. The link is in the description below. These stories are so powerful, and Diane, your story is so powerful. I can't imagine being diagnosed with MS and what people are going through when they get that diagnosis. And then I almost look at it similar to cancer. A lot of people are diagnosed with cancer or MS or some of these things. I feel like if that were me, I would feel hopeless. And the doctor's probably like, what do the doctors say to you? Like, here's some medication. This is the best you can do, kind of thing. Did you have any hope?
Well, they don't really give you much. They say we have medications that might control it. So the medications, there are 3 tiers of medications, and when you start out on the lowest tier. They don't want to give you like the strongest medication, and you try that, and I did, and I failed it. And when you fail it, what happens is when you have a routine MRI, there is a new lesion on the MRI, either in your brain or in your spinal cord. I think I had one in my cervical spine. Um, thank God it didn't affect my abilities. So there are parts of the brain where you can get these lesions that are kind of like in a benign place that really don't affect you. And by the grace of God, that's where mine were, except for a few that gave me the annoying type of dizziness and things like that. But the medication, the first tier, is the most benign, and then you fail that, you move up to the second tier, and there are a few medications in the second tier. So we discussed which one would be better, and I chose that one, and I tried that one, and I failed that one. So I was in the highest tier. So the strongest medication, there was a medication called Ocrevus, which you can see the commercials. It's all out there in commercials. It's a once every 6 months, you go into the hospital for half a day and you have an infusion. And what it does is it kills all your B cells, all your immune cells. So you have T cells and B cells. It only kills the B. The T stay intact. However, that coincided with COVID. So
Mm.
COVID hits. Oh, sorry, this second tier doesn't work. We've got to hit you with the strong bullets, and we've got to knock out that immune system, because your immune system is attacking your body. So you got to knock it out. So what kind of thought is that? Like, I don't believe that it's true. Like they still say that your immune system is attacking your body. Why would my immune system do that? Right? I believe it's all metabolic, and Dr. Anthony Chafee is there as well. And in fact, I am in a study. There are 12 people in this study, and they're studying us to see the effects of the carnivore diet on MS. So
Mm.
I'm very grateful to have seen him speak about that, and I sent him an email, and I'm in the study now. There are some movers and shakers, people that we know they're also involved with it, and so stay tuned. It's a preliminary study, because there are no studies on this. So what happens in the scientific world is that you have to do these initial studies where you take people and you just study them in the effects of what's going on, so that other studies can use that to cite when they do studies. So this is like starting from step one.
Right.
And unfortunately, as many people know, the big studies that cost a tremendous amount of money to do, for these scientists to work on for sometimes years, it costs a lot of money, and mostly the drug companies pay for them. So when you've got a study based on a diet, who pays for it? You need a donor. You need someone to fund this, and that's why there's not a lot of studies on the carnivore diet, because no drug company is going to pay to study the carnivore diet, right? So these are it's beginning, it's starting, it's slow. I've seen some studies on the ketogenic diet on MS, and they're studying blood sugar levels in the brain, and how the brain, like how they're talking about Alzheimer's being a type 3 diabetes.
Mm.
They're finding that a lot of other things with the brain, like autism, like MS, like Parkinson's, there is a metabolic component, just like there is with Alzheimer's. So there is an insulin resistance of the brain. So I saw some studies about that in MS. There's an insulin resistance in the brain that they're just looking at. They're just starting to look at that now. So there is a lot of hope. I mean, I'm certainly hopeful, because I decided to follow this. My mission now is to get the word out, to get enough people that know about it. I didn't know about it. No one told me about it. The doctor doesn't tell you about it. And I just want to I want to help people. I want to help people to learn about it and to make their own mind, to make their own decision. Everyone decides what they're going to eat every
Right.
single day. Everything you put in your mouth, it's a decision. If you have a reason to decide to eat this way because you want to feel well, I mean, I think that's a gift to know about it. If you don't know about it, you're not going to do it.
Yes. I love that, Diane. I share the same passion with the mental health component of this, the depression. I had no idea in a million years that the depression and all of these silly pills that I was on for so
Yeah.
long, I thought it was chemical imbalance in my brain. Never in a million years would I have thought this is my food I'm eating. Oh, wow, that's even more impressive. Yeah. So just like you said, it's the same thing for me. I'm not saying like, hey, everybody, you got to do carnivore, but people that have mental health issues, depression, anxiety, people that are diagnosed with MS, cancer, type 2 diabetes, it's like a lot of people don't know that this is even a viable option.
Right.
I never in a million years would have thought it was even an option. So um, I have a question for you though. So I keep asking everyone this. I interviewed Dr. Westman not too long ago
Mhm.
and Dr. Tony Hampton. We were talking about type 2 diabetes, and the question is, would type 2 diabetes even exist if everyone was eating a proper human diet? And
That's
so
a
I
good
guess
question.
so I guess my question is the same for you. I know you're not a doctor, you're kind of going through this yourself, but in terms of MS, do you think MS would even exist if everyone was eating a proper human diet?
That is a very good question. It's possible that it would exist, but probably not, it wouldn't have the numbers that it has today. And I don't know. I can't, and and part of me doesn't blame sugar 100%. I think it's the seed oils and sugar combination. That's what's in my own mind, is that we're kind of being poisoned by these things that were not around 100 years ago, right? They weren't here.
Right.
Or maybe they were just starting 100 years ago. So for the past 100 years, we've been eating a substance, and it's in everything, that is not compatible with the human body. We never ingested it before, and they're finding that what it's doing is you're making your cell membranes from these fats, because that's what your cell membranes are, as fat. So the fat that you eat, you digest and you make your body with it. The protein and the fat that you eat, you're making your body with. So you're making your double layer of membrane for each cell in your body from seed oils, if that's the only oils you're ingesting.
Right.
So you're turning yourself into something that you weren't meant to be.
And
So I don't know,
escape
is
from
it
natural.
right? So you've got the seed oils and then the extreme sugar bombs that we're eating. We were meant to eat sugar in the summer when the little teeny bitty apple, this big, ripened, and it really
Right.
wasn't that sweet.
No, it didn't taste too good.
Or, maybe the squash that you had, or the little garden you had, and you ate, these carbohydrates, and maybe you made a little bread because you had a little flour, or you made a little dessert, and you would eat it at the end of the summers to get you through that long, cold winter where you're starving. And you'd go into ketosis and you'd be fasting all winter, and you'd have, maybe some ham hocks in your basement that were drying since September. I don't know. We didn't eat like this. We didn't have these superstores that we could go and fill our carts overflowing with every single thing we could ever want in the whole entire world. All
Yeah.
these. I mean, I don't know if I ever saw a kiwi until I was an adult. I don't think that was even a thing,
Right.
right? So we have too many choices.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is how us carnivores see it differently now. But it's funny, just some of the things you're saying right now. Jen and I earlier today, I just ran into the grocery store quick and grabbed a couple things, and I came out and I'm just like, I know all this already. I got to shut up because I talk about it too much. But it's like, it's just amazing to me that all of humanity has been completely fooled to believe food is something other than food is something other than what it's intended. Like it's for sustenance and energy. But every single person in that grocery store believes it's for entertainment and pleasure. And you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have this. And carts just heaping with science experiment foods, like you said to your point earlier, that we've never consumed ever the history of man. And everyone's like, oh, it's just fine. And it's so funny to me. And then you and I talk about carnivore and like, you're going to die. That's crazy. And meanwhile, they're fully inflamed eating these crazy seed oils and food dyes and sugar and all this garbage.
My husband and I were this afternoon going to the gym, and we went by a Whole Foods, and it's like down this little hill where we were driving by, and I'm like, oh, all those poor people disillusioned getting their organic vegetables thinking they're healthy.
Right?
My husband goes, you've become such a cynic.
It's so funny. It's so funny you said that, because that was literally pretty much what I was saying in the car to Jen afterwards.
That's why I'm laughing.
I'm not trying to be negative, but it is.
Yeah.
It's just
He's like,
crazy.
you're such a cynic. I said, I'm only a cynic because I was in that store doing the same thing.
Yeah, me too.
I was thinking I was so healthy, like, okay, this is organic and this is fresh and this is this and this is that, and filling my cart up and feeling so good about myself.
Me too. And me too, doing that, filling the cart up with all of that, and then steering far away from the red meat aisle, because that's going to clog my artery. I can't have that fat. And what happened a couple months after that, I had my gallbladder removed. Because why was that happening? Because I wasn't eating fat, because I was demonizing meat and fat, and your gallbladder needs fat to function. It's like, it's so crazy how backwards things are. But hey, this is awesome conversation. We got a super chat. Let's see what Omar has here. 10-pound super chat. Thank you for that. Every penny we get from those goes towards the documentary. Omar says, I got diagnosed with motor neuron disease. My right hand and voice has been affected. I've now been on carnivore for just over 1 month to heal my nerves. How long did it take you to heal your MS?
I'm still healing it, Omar. Still happening. I mean, I feel every day I'm feeling better and better. And it started at the 3-week mark. And I mean, I documented. I would suggest, Omar, that you document everything. I opened my notes app in my phone, and I put down like 137 days or whatever it is, and I write, I'm feeling great, this happened, or even if like I have some cheese and the next day I don't feel good, I'll put that in the app so that it reminds me not to eat it again. So I don't really know what motor neuron disease is. And I'm wondering if it's more of a peripheral disease, where MS is more of central nervous system, and where that's more of a peripheral. I hope that you feel better. I mean, how long have you been? A month, just over a month. So are you feeling anything? And how do you feel so far?
Right.
If you could just chime in and let us know.
Yep. All right. Let's see. We've got some other questions here as well. Okay, here we go. Oh, who's your carnivore? Brett, thank you so much. Brett gifted 5 HomesteadHow memberships. Bob Eater, you guys are crazy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All the money we get from those goes towards the documentary. We've been doing members-only live streams on Thursdays. I got a question. I have a great idea for North Carolina. If you come here, Kelly Hogan as well as Dr. Westman, and then Dr. Barry's not that far in the neighboring state of Tennessee. I hope it happens. That would be awesome. We did a meetup in South Carolina. We'll have to get out in that area at some point. I was so fortunate. I had Dr. Westman on the channel a couple of weeks ago, and it was incredibly humbling to be able to talk to some of these good doctors like Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Nelson and Dr. Westman.
So Dr. Westman's been doing low carb since the Atkins days, like way back, right?
He knew Atkins, and he actually wrote the second Atkins book.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that's amazing.
He's incredible, and I really, if you guys aren't watching Dr. Westman's YouTube channel, I recommend it. He does reaction videos, and he's more advocating for keto. So some carnivore people are like, he's a little bit more, but if you listen to him lately or the interview I did with him, he's like all for carnivore.
He's
you know,
coming to carnivore a little bit more, I've been noticing. He was
he is.
mostly keto.
What it is this, and it makes sense. He said, Carrie, keto is so safe, right? Like hundreds of, like 100 years ago, they were using keto to treat kids with epilepsy. Like there's all sorts of studies that keto is so safe. He's like, where he works right now, if he says the word keto, he still runs into people where he's like, isn't that dangerous? And he's just like, oh, like how many times do I got to explain this? How many studies do we have to show? So he's like, Carrie, imagine when I say the word carnivore now, if I can barely get the word keto out of my lips and people are fearing. So he's kind of got to work within those constraints, but he meets people where they are. And he was telling me he's got a lot of people that, yeah, they do keto with a little bit of vegetables and they still have stomach issues. They still have depression. They still have inflammation. It's like, well, let's remove that and see what happens. And they're doing carnivore. So,
right.
But
so meeting people where they are and going little by little.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was talking to him too. And I'm like, I obviously am pretty passionate about carnivore, but I said to him, I'm like, carnivore is keto. It's just the stricter version of keto. And had I never found keto, I don't know that I'd be doing carnivore right now. Carnivore was already insane to me, but in my head, I'm like, oh, that's just really strict keto. And I've done keto before. This is just next level. So I think so many people have found carnivore through keto. It's like kind of a baby step towards it. Keto's great. As Dr. Kilt says, keto's great. Carnivore heals.
Right. So, if I was on keto for a while, and I think keto is easier to cheat on too. It's more of a diet, so you can go on it and off of it. But when you're on carnivore, for some reason, it's just a lifestyle. It becomes a way of eating. It becomes how you eat rather than a diet.
That was my big epiphany and my argument. I did a little, it wasn't really an argument. It was a friendly conversation, but my argument to Dr. Westman was just that. I said, Dr. Westman, I love keto. I don't think I would have found carnivore without it, but I failed and went down this path on keto for years, even though it helped me, because I'm addicted to carbs and sugar. And on keto, I'm trying to moderate that addiction. Like an alcoholic saying, oh, just on Saturday, I'm going to drink a little bit of beer every single Saturday. And you end up relapsing over and over and over again. And he was with me on that one too. He's like, that is a huge part of the problem. And that's why carnivore is easy for a lot of people, because you're just abstaining. You're not trying to moderate an addiction, which is nearly impossible. My argument to him too was, it's like, I feel like, Dr. Westman, the majority of humanity is kind of more like me. It's not me with a big head, but it's just like when you look around in the world, it's like 9 out of 10 people have poor metabolic health. 70% of people are overweight. Kids with fatty liver disease. Depression's rampant. It's like, I think the majority of humanity is addicted to carbs and sugar and not admitting it. And people get mad at me sometimes when I talk about that, but the main reason I think it's important is because, like you were saying before, you don't know what you don't know. If people don't know that this is an option for MS or for depression, they're just not going to know it. And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't realize or admit they're addicted. They try to do keto. And if you lose 100 pounds on keto and then you gain it all back and then some, that is one of the most horrible things in the whole world. Devastating. And I lost and gained so much weight yo-yoing over and over again. I see so many people doing that. So that's why I get kind of passionate about the whole addiction thing. I think it's a bigger issue than most people.
It's not only addiction, but it's a normalized addiction. It's very normalized. Like, this is just the way people eat. This is just what we do. It is what it is. So that's why we're abnormal eating this way, because, being addicted is normal.
Yeah.
And some people don't have to follow it so strictly. If you're young, if you're healthy, if you exercise, sure, you could eat some carbs and still be healthy. But it's so funny, because the people that are joining, that are subscribing to my page, I looked at the age bracket, and they're all my age. They're all between 45 and 70. There's no young people that are feeling like I'm feeling. It's all if you subscribe to a life of eating carbohydrates and having alcohol on the weekends or whatever, you don't even think you're doing that bad. It catches up with you. And then
Yeah.
by the time you're 45, 55, 65, you feel it. And what does our society call that? Aging. It's not aging. It's
Not.
not supposed to happen. You
Nope.
know, people aren't supposed to get heart attacks. People aren't supposed to get cancer, MS, Parkinson's disease. We're not supposed to get those things. Those
Right.
things are abnormal because of what we're eating and the lifestyles we're living. And like I said, Carrie, I exercised. I ate pretty healthy. People would say, wow, you're eating so healthy. But it's tons of vegetables. I ate like 9 vegetables a day. I ate vegetables all day long with my little bit of low-fat chicken breast
Yeah.
or my egg whites. You know,
Yep.
no fat and high vegetable, high poison. I poison
Mhm.
myself. And it doesn't affect you when you're young.
Right.
Not as often. Some people are affected. But for the most part, it's when you get into 45 and 70, that's when you're feeling it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. It adds up over time. The only other thing, though, is I wonder this next generation, besides the plants and everything that they're eating, and it's inflammatory, some of the stuff this next generation's eating is just crazy. I often think about that because I'm like, man, I was so broken and so messed up. And on this, I'm like, I didn't eat as bad as these kids are that are coming up now where they got the big
Yep.
Starbucks drinks. It's just
Right.
pure. It's like mainlining sugar right into your bloodstream. It's crazy. Some of the food dyes and all this other stuff. I don't know. It's all over. Here's a good question from Andrea. Can carnivore rebuild myelin sheath in genetic disease as well as autoimmune like MS? Friend's wife and son have ALD.
ALD, okay. So I don't know is the answer that I'll give you. However, so if you're eating so your brain is made of fat and protein, 60% fat, 40% protein. Your myelin sheath is 100% cholesterol. If you're not eating fat and cholesterol, how are you supposed to replenish that myelin sheath? So I definitely don't think it could hurt. I think that that's what they're studying in these preliminary studies that they're talking about to see if the carnivore diet will rebuild the myelin sheath. They don't know. I would guess yes. I would say it's not going to hurt. Let's see. Let's see if it happens. It's better
Right.
than not eating fat and protein and seeing what's going on. You might as well give it a try and see how you feel.
That's been one of the biggest things I learned for this as well is everyone tries carnivore for one reason. And every single one of the people that does that, there's like 20 other things that happen inevitably. I did it for this reason. I did it for depression, but I got rid of the arthritis in my foot. I got rid of the brain fog. I got more energy. So um, definitely, I'm excited for those studies that are coming out and that you're participating in those with Dr. Chafee. That's really
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty exciting.
Omar has a follow-up super chat. Thank you, Omar. I have more energy, but I still have difficulty speaking. 3
Okay.
weeks in, my right hand started twitching. Not sure if that is recovery or something else.
That's exciting. So
That 3 week thing. You mentioned 3 weeks
yes,
too. I
that's
keep hearing
why
3
I
weeks.
think it's something because all my healing started in 3 weeks. So is your hand poor guy, I don't want to ask him again. I'm wondering if his hand is twitching from not moving? Like, was he unable to move his hand and then it started twitching? Which that would be, I think, I'm not a doctor, but I think that would be a good thing. Right?
Right. Yeah. Omar, maybe if you have more info, but I guess the only other thing I'd say is stick with it.
Yeah.
You said you were a month into it and you're already seeing some results. It's
More energy is huge. More energy is huge. You need
yep.
energy to get through your day.
That's the biggest thing I hear on carnivore too, is people have more energy, their sleep improves. When your sleep improves, your immune system is stronger. There's all sorts of downstream effects from it. You're getting rid of inflammation in your body, which everybody should be worried about. So you're a month into it, which is great, but I would keep going for sure. You're already seeing some really good results.
Right.
All right. Let's see. John is saying, question, could University Concert Hall be a suitable venue in Limerick, Ireland for a meetup? Possibly. I don't know. That's
fun.
boots on the ground. Set it up and let us know. I'm interested. Bob Eater is going to be in our Yuma, Tennessee meetup. That's going to be a lot of fun seeing you there, Bob. Dr. Kiltz is back live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern and 5 a.m. Monday.
Woohoo!
So did I hear something about Diane going on with Dr. Kiltz?
I will be going on with Dr. Kiltz in April. Yeah.
April. Stay tuned. Or is that the 5 a.m. one?
No, I already did 5 a.m. with him.
You did the 5
early.
Okay.
Now it's not 5 a.m. It's
nice. Regular time.
Later in the day.
Nice.
Actually, it wasn't that bad. It was a lot of fun. It was. Yeah. Then you had the rest of the day. I was like wired.
Dr. Kilt's energy to wake you up in the morning.
Yeah.
I have been catching more and more of the 5 a.m. Meetups, which are live streams that Dr. Kiltz does, which is crazy to me. Never before would I have been into something like that up that early.
That's 4 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. There's quite a few of them where I'm up and I'm like, oh, what are you going to do? All right. Well, Dr. Kiltz is on. Let's go.
There you go.
Always so much good energy to start the day off. I had this quote. I don't know if I have it here. I like this quote. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So
love it.
Waking up in the morning and the first person you spend time with is Dr. Kiltz at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. That incredible energy out there healing people. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
All right. Anna said, I've never believed that the immune system attacks itself in any autoimmune condition. That's a lot of what Dr. Chafee's been talking about more and more recently as well.
Yes.
You say those things too, and then it's just like, yeah, I mean, that just makes sense, right? Why would it do that?
Yeah, I was 50 years old when I was diagnosed, and I just had this feeling like I've been working on my self-esteem so much. I've been working on myself and being kind to myself and all of that. And then all of a sudden my immune system attacks myself. Really?
Right?
My body's attacking myself. My mind had been attacking myself my entire life. And I'm like, okay, mind, done. And then my body, I can't believe that is true. It can't be. I think that there's something, perhaps, I mean, because Dr. Chafee says that, like, for when people can't eat gluten and they have celiac disease, the body is trying to attack the gluten because they consider the gluten to be an invader. So it's like the gut gets caught in the crossfire. So I'm wondering if something's happening with maybe the myelin sheath is being remade with all these poisonous seed oils rather than pure cholesterol, because you don't have cholesterol. And so then the body says, this is an invader. I'm going to attack it. That was the thought. That was my carnivore thought that I had, that perhaps the body's trying to do you a favor by getting rid of this substance that's not real.
Right. Yeah. There's so many things like that. That makes me think of that other one where, okay, I'm doing carnivore. I fixed my metabolic health. Everything is better. But for some reason, there's this assumption that you're a ticking time bomb and your heart's going to explode and you're going to have a heart attack.
Right. So, because of cholesterol, because your LDL is high. Everything else got into better than optimal range.
Yeah,
every single blood
perfect
count is perfect or better, but that LDL went up a little high. So, yeah, you better get rid of that diet because it's bad for you.
Right. It's another one of those things where you start scratching your head afterwards. Like, this makes no sense. Literally, I'm eating this food and it's good for every single part of my body, but for some unknown reason, it's just, my heart's going to explode. I get that comment from a lot of people too. You're a ticking time bomb. And I'm like, I reversed my congestive heart failure. I'm no longer on high blood pressure medication. My irregular heartbeat's gone. I feel incredible. I can stand up without getting dizzy anymore, but okay, any second now, it's just going to blow up and I'm going to die. I'm like, I'll take the risk.
Well, I think it's a Swiss study that studied people who, I think it's a longevity study, and that people had more instances of longevity when they had higher LDL. And
Yeah. It's like everything we discover is the opposite of what we were told. It's completely opposite. Yeah. The higher
it'll turn
higher
around eventually.
Right.
Yeah. It takes some time.
I've jokingly said this before, but it's really true. It's like if I would have just done the opposite of everything the people I trusted and the doctors told me, I would have been so much more healthier.
Right.
Don't eat meat, only eat vegetables, swap it.
So the trouble is it takes 20 years for things that are found in studies to translate to clinical practice. So they're starting to find this stuff out. So 20 years down the road, they'll find out, oh yeah, maybe they won't say, oh, I'm sorry, you should be eating meat, but because they won't admit that they're wrong, but they might say, oh, we're finding that people who eat, like, you're going to start saying it. They're going to start talking about, having a higher fat. They've already done that with butter and margarine. Remember, margarine was king. And now, nobody eats margarine, I hope. They're starting to know
I still have a couple family members actually that do, which blows my mind. Not my immediate family, extended family.
They didn't get the memo.
No. I saw it in a family member's refrigerator and I threw it in the garbage.
You did?
Yeah.
They're like, where's my margarine?
Yeah. Well, how much more is it for a stick of butter? Come on. I'm like, I'll buy you a little bit of butter to get you through the week.
It's a mental block.
Yeah.
They think it's healthy.
And a lot of them, like to your point earlier with the addiction, it's normal. And that's why I always say to people, like, if you're addicted, you shouldn't have any shame. Like, we're born into this. Like, we're born into giving sugar and carbs, and it's every single treat, it's every single holiday. There's nothing to be ashamed about. Bill is asking, is the documentary finished? Newcomer to this awesome carnivore family. If not done, ETA. So, Bill, we're on the home stretch. We filmed 45 interviews. We have about 4 remaining, including Dr. Baker in Washington and Dr. Barry in Tennessee. And we're hoping to wrap up near the end of the year, early next year. And then we're also filming a series. Quick update. This is exciting. So the series that we've talked about quite a bit, there'll be a whole episode on type 2 diabetes, a whole episode on aging, a whole episode on cancer, autoimmune disorders. We've already filmed quite a bit for that. So when I say we've done 45 interviews, some of those are just going to be a little bit in the documentary and then a longer version in that series. And we just got a rough cut of Bill Knott from Alaska, his entire story from start to finish. We filmed Bill day one, and then we filmed him a year later. And so the editor, John, who's incredible, he did the trailer that a lot of you guys saw. He just finished with the rough cut. It's got music in it. Jen and I watched it the other day, and I can't wait. I'm almost more excited for the series. So people will be able to watch Bill's story in the documentary. And they're like, hey, I really like Bill, or I really liked Maggie. And they'll be able to go watch a whole Maggie episode and a whole Bill episode. So we're on the home stretch. We're getting there. It'll be worth the wait. There's some people are excited about it. So I get it. I get this question all the time. The reason this isn't even taking longer than many documentaries of this size take a couple years to do. This one's taking a little while because several of the people we followed for a year, including Bill. So we follow Bill for a year, and then Mimi's another one that hasn't hit a year yet. So you have to add in another year for each of those people. You can't film them simultaneously, so it takes a little bit longer for those reasons. But it'll be worth the wait. I can't wait. It bothers me having these stories and not being able to share them right now. Like here, just everyone's got to hear this, but I realize that if we wait and put it in the documentary, it's going to reach a lot more people. And that's the goal of it, is to reach as many people as possible versus trying to get it out there sooner rather than later kind of thing. So Dr. Kilt said to Diane, you telling the simple story, Diane, is the most important study.
He is so sweet. The stories, Right, Dr. Kiltz, the stories are the most important things. And what are studies? They're just stories.
Yeah.
It's all stories. So, yeah,
Us
we've got to
humans,
tell them.
we love our stories. I've got a new book I was just reading talking all about the importance of stories and how everything in life, if you really start thinking about it, it's all stories,
Right.
including, by the way, when you go to bed and you're having dreams, it's more stories.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
It's all about the
You're
stories.
telling
But
yourself stories.
yeah, that's why I'm shouting out Diane's YouTube channel as well, because you're bravely sharing your story. You mentioned earlier you have a lot of people, your peers, that are in your audience, because your story, Diane, is going to inspire people. There's other people out there with MS or other people that can relate to you. So uh, I have fallen in love with these stories through this process. It's like they're so
Right.
important.
Well, you're
I feel
documenting them on the documentaries, which is wonderful, so everyone can see them. I've had
yeah.
people reach out to me with MS. I've had a few, and I've only I did my first video February 2nd, and so it hasn't been that long, and I've had people reaching out to me and talking to me, telling me their story, which I think is, I mean, I'm just so honored to be able to be a keeper of their story, for them to feel comfortable enough to tell me. I think it's such a human thing to be able to share things with people. And you know, YouTube has made this possible to share to a lot of people, but then you get the person, and I'm sure you get the thousands of people that say, Kerry, this is what's happening with me. They feel comfortable enough because they saw you to tell you their story. And it's just such an honor to be the keeper of that.
Yes. Oh, you said that so well. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's humbling. Like I can't think of anything better to do in the world than it's a responsibility too. I feel
Yes.
a great responsibility to get these stories out. Jeff DeProsperous, for example, his story is so powerful. It's going to be in our documentary. But yeah, I'm excited. There's so many more stories coming out too. That's the other reason people keep saying, "When's the documentary going to be done?" We were drawing a line in the sand, and then we added one more person to it. We talked about this last time, but Hal Cranmer. Hal Cranmer is the man that's running several long-term care facilities. I think he's got one in
Oh,
Washington,
yeah,
one in
yeah.
Arizona. He's got people, elderly residents that go to these
Yeah.
long-term care facilities. He's feeding keto, carnivore diet, proper human diet, and sending them home.
Yeah.
I am like, how can we not? We have to have that in the documentary. The thing with the
He's
documentary is
amazing. I
yeah,
saw him on Michaela Peterson's show, I think.
incredible. Talk
Yeah.
about a hero. Like
Yeah.
what is more hopeless than ending up in one of those facilities? And the thing that people most say when they're in one of those is, I just want to go home. He's got actually a lot of people that are actually going home. They're fixing their diet and they're able to go back home. And they're testing them for, I think it was Alzheimer's. There were a couple of tests where they were testing their abilities before and then after, and they're seeing significant improvements. It's
So,
really incredible.
Kerry, that type of environment is perfect for studies,
Right.
because you have someone that you're feeding them, you're taking care of them, you see what they're eating, you can measure exactly how much they're eating and how much they're not eating, and you have the medical know-how to measure their cognitive ability, their physical abilities, their psychological abilities. You can measure every single thing, and they are under your care anyway.
Right.
So a lot of times studies are unethical, or, you know, they're not thought of being true, because especially diet studies, what did you
Yeah.
eat the past 1 year? The nurses study, right? What did you eat the past year? So you have to remember everything you ate in the past. I can't
Yeah.
remember what I ate this morning.
I
And I
know,
gotta
and we're
remember
carnivore, right? We should be able to
yeah,
remember we're
we eat the
carnivore. We
same
can't
things
remember.
every day,
Yeah.
right? So
It's such garbage. It's such garbage science, those studies. But you're right. This is a very controlled
it's
way to
very
do it.
controlled. It's a perfect environment to be able to measure the outcomes too, because you've got the it's a medical facility. You can
Right.
measure all that. So I really, when I heard his story, I was like, that is amazing. I'm glad he's in the documentary, because that's perfect.
I'm so glad too, because a big component in the documentary, it's different health issues, like type 2 diabetes or depression, mental health. But I'm like, who can't relate to aging? Everyone thinks about aging, or they have a parent or a grandparent. And so I think everyone can relate to that. Plus, I just think it's such an important story to get out there. It's like, these are the most vulnerable in our society that we need to take care of. And a lot of them are ending up in these homes, and unnecessarily, it breaks my heart. In particular, my grandfather on my dad's side worked his whole life, oftentimes 2 jobs, and got to retirement age and retired, and had a massive stroke, paralyzed on half of his body for the rest of his life, mobility issues, and didn't live very long after that. And I'm like, if he was just eating a proper human diet this whole time, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. Speaking of some of these things, John is asking, does a proper human diet help with Parkinson's?
Yep.
My later mom had Parkinson's and found out too late to suggest that mom eat only meat.
Yes.
Mimi's one example I have in our documentary. Mimi was diagnosed with full-blown Parkinson's and been in remission for several years and is thriving. She's going to be in our documentary. Mimi Morgan, you can look her up. She's been on my channel, Dr. Chafee's channel, and a couple others. And I think Hal, too, that we just mentioned, I think he's got some folks with Parkinson's that have been seeing improvements eating a carnivore diet.
So what I mentioned about the brain being insulin resistant, this happens, they're finding out, in Parkinson's disease. So they call it, and I heard this term and looked it up and started reading a bunch of studies from Dr. Ben Bickman. He talks about hypometabolism. So when hypo meaning low, metabolism. So your brain is not getting energy because it's insulin resistant. It's the insulin is it's being blocked. Like you if you were eating sugar your whole life, you're on the sugar metabolism route, right? So you've got keto and you've got sugar. So if you are only eating sugar, there comes a time where your brain, along with your muscles, along with your pancreas, everything else becomes insulin resistant, which means it blocks the sugar from entering the cell. So in Parkinson's, they're finding that this occurs, that your brain is flooded with sugar, the cells, sugar all around it, but your brain is not absorbing it. So it doesn't have any energy to survive. So the brain starts dying. You start getting the fatigue, it dies little by little. And they're finding this with Parkinson's, with MS, with Alzheimer's disease, all these diseases of the brain. It has to do with hypometabolism and insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So you just switch to a keto diet and you put your body into ketosis, and it has a whole new energy supply. It has a whole new fuel, ketones, and ketones power the brain. And it turns the brain back on because it has the fuel it needs.
Good stuff. Good answer. All right. Drew is asking, anyone have any updates or intel on Old Guy Carnivore? I'll just repeat this because I know there's some new folks on since I mentioned earlier. I encourage everyone to go to Mitch's channel, Old Guy Carnivore, on YouTube. And the last live stream he did, Ellen has been, she posted an update, and any updates that'll be coming will be coming there. But you can go over there and leave some comments and give Mitch some love. Yeah, so Old Guy Carnivore on YouTube. Sign up, subscribe to his channel, hit notifications, and then you'll be the first to know when he jumps back on. Mervet is asking, talk about your eating without a gallbladder. I think that's for me. Do you have your gallbladder still, Diane?
I still have my gallbladder, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't have a gallbladder and I'm just fine. I think when I did keto for a while, I tried like ox bile when I started eating a lot of fat, but I didn't need to continue to do that. And I will tell you this, there's so many people that are carnivore that don't have gallbladders. My wife, Jen, doesn't have a gallbladder.
Wow, okay.
My friend Lynn, no gallbladder. It's
So
kind of funny.
Do you have a hard time metabolizing fat? Because I heard that that's the worry, right? Is that you're not going to have the gall coming out of the gallbladder to metabolize the fat.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the concern. Some people have a little bit of issue with it, but everyone seems to adapt. And sometimes it takes a little bit of baby steps. Sometimes people have to do ox bile for a little while, but it's like I've talked to so many people now that don't have a gallbladder, and most of them, it's like, yeah, I did the ox bile for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, eased into the fat a little bit. If I have too much, I end up in the bathroom, but I think that's the case for most anyone. But
Yep.
I wouldn't even be able to tell you like I'm doing anything different. I just feel like all my other carnivore friends that do have a gallbladder. The only thing that bothers me is the difference between rendered fat. So if I have like melted butter,
Yep.
don't do too well with that versus
I have
having
a
cold
gallbladder
butter.
and I can't do it that well either.
Yeah, so
So
that might
I
not even be a
wonder,
gallbladder thing.
sometimes you can grow a new gallbladder. Do you hear
I,
that? Like
I've
under your
heard that.
liver, you can get like this little pouch that serves as
Yep.
a gallbladder. I wonder if you
Yeah.
did that.
I wonder. I don't know. I wonder. Something's going on, but I've heard that from so many people. And the funny thing is, just learning more about all this, I'm not a doctor, right? I'm just a layman. Uh, I don't know how all these organs and stuff work, but we mentioned this earlier, the fact that, so I think the reason so many of us carnivores don't have a gallbladder anymore is because we were eating the wrong foods our entire lives, and we
Yep.
were demonizing fat. We weren't eating, and that was the case for me. I was eating just like you were, Diane, what you said earlier, a little bit of protein, low fat, chicken breast, and salad, lots of vegetables. That's all I
Maybe a
used to
little
eat.
rice, a little brown rice.
Yep. But
Yeah.
almost no fat. I have congestive heart failure. I can't eat that, to the point that I ended up losing my gallbladder. So, but yeah, the good news is there's so many people that say I can't do carnivore and have a gallbladder. I'm like, almost every carnivore I know doesn't have a gallbladder. You can do it. You can do it. Just maybe take some baby steps, and you'll know. Like if you start eating a lot of fat, the tricky part is when you start carnivore, a lot of people end up in the bathroom with number 2 for a little while.
Right.
And
That's
that
normal.
doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your gallbladder. It
Nope.
could, but it could also be your gut biome and your body adjusting to burning carbs to going into burning fat for fuel. A lot of people end up in the bathroom for a little while for that.
Right.
When that happens, I always tell people, I told myself, I'm like, good. Like I deserve that. That's 43 years worth of abuse and toxins and garbage I put in my body. I got to suffer for a little bit, a week or two, and get all of that out of my system, and then I'm fine. But yeah, most people are fine without the gallbladder. All right. Larry said, I was diagnosed several years ago with MS. I was told to stay away from all animal fats as they would exacerbate the MS.
Yeah.
Since carnivore, I'm doing so much better. We'll try to find Diane's channel. Well, Lori, find it in the description. Everyone watching right now, we got 260 people on. Go in the description, click on the little link for Diane's channel, hit the subscribe button, go check out. She's got a great YouTube channel, going to inspire a lot of people.
Lori, I'm so happy you found it. Thrilled.
Yeah. All right. Michelle, can you explain ketosis and how to get into it while eating, or can you while eating?
Yeah. So you hear about ketosis a lot with fasting. That's probably why. So carnivore is a fasting mimicking diet. So it mimics fasting because you're not eating carbohydrates. So if you're a carnivore, you're in ketosis. You can find out if you're in ketosis by measuring your ketones. They sell little strips that you can pee on and you can see if you have ketones in your urine. But I heard that once you're a carnivore for a little while, they don't really work because you have more ketones in your breath and more ketones in your blood than you do your urine. But you can get a little measuring thing called a Keto Mojo, and you can measure. I want to get one. I don't have one. You can measure the amount of ketones in your blood. So when you're in ketosis, you're burning fat. That's a fat burning mode. And when you're not in ketosis, you're burning carbohydrates. So if you keep your carbohydrates really low, it depends on your system. Some people have to keep it negligent. You have to be, some people have to go like below 10 or below 20. Some people have to go 0. to be in ketosis. And the lower you go with the carbohydrates, the higher you are in ketosis. Ketosis is what your brain wants. That's why carnivores are just so energetic and so happy, and the depression is gone and all that, because the sugar burning mode really kind of gunks things up. It's like if you have a car that's a hybrid that runs on gasoline and electricity, right? And once it's out of gasoline, it can then run on electricity, which is the ketones, and you fill the tank up, and now it's running on gas or carbohydrates. So you can't, you're not really, you might have a few ketones when you are carb burning, but not enough for your brain to prefer it. And your body too prefers it. But if you're eating the carbohydrates, you're not in ketosis. You're not fat burning. You've got all this fat on your body that you want to burn, but you're burning the toast you had for breakfast. You're not burning the years of fat that you have on your body. So once you eat fat, you start burning fat. Does that make sense, Carrie?
Yeah, that's really good. I love the advice too. The Keto Mojo is great. I have one. I used it once or twice, and then I just don't really have a need to use it. But it is important, especially, Michelle, it sounds like you're kind of worried. Are you in ketosis? Are you not? I mentioned earlier we had Dr. Eid on the other day giving us a master class. And that was one of the reoccurring themes of advice she was giving people. She's like, well, are you in ketosis? How deep into ketosis are you? Are you at a therapeutic level of ketosis? And one of the things she told me, which I've heard before, but just the way she was saying it was really interesting. She's like, you have a couple dials on carnivore. You can dial the protein and you can dial the fat. And some people need to dial down the protein a little bit and up the fat. And that could get you into that deeper level of ketosis where you're in almost a therapeutic stage of ketosis. And there's people like Professor Seafried advocates this for people with cancer or people with serious mental health issues, depression, things like that, where if you get into that deeper, more therapeutic level of ketosis, that's where you need to be when you have some of those things. But it's so cool having a tool like the Keto Mojo. You can go on Amazon. You don't need a prescription. You can go on Amazon. You can buy a Keto Mojo. Right. It comes with little strips, and you can just test it, and then you can rely on the data.
Right. Because I don't know, like I could be having more protein than I should. So that's that whole fat protein ratio. And who talks about it is Dr. Boz, Dr. Annette Bosworth. She does this whole math problem of the Dr. Boz ratio, where your ketones are high and your blood sugar is low. And it's for therapeutic ketosis.
Right.
So
I'm going to do more testing myself. The thing I like about carnivore is you don't have to test, but everyone's doing carnivore for a different reason. And a lot of people are doing it for serious reasons. And if I was, I did it for a serious reason. And luckily I've got to most of my goals now, but if I was starting again, I would be testing that all the time. The only thing I could say is I have been in some very deep therapeutic levels of ketosis when I've done fasting. I did that one 8-day fast. I felt so good. I felt amazing.
Really? Yeah. So that's amazing.
Yeah, so I've been thinking like I don't necessarily want to do another 8-day fast, maybe, but to be able to achieve that level, I think the reason I felt so good is because I was in that deep therapeutic ketosis, and I could do that if I messed around with those dials a little bit, like Dr. Reed said, and up the fat a little bit more and reduce the protein and see where it's at. So coming soon. I'm gonna be doing that soon. I'm just as a fun little experiment to see. It feels great being in a deeper stage of ketosis. I don't know. I don't really track that much either. So a lot of times I'm probably having too much protein and not enough fat. All right, let's see. We got one or two more questions here. Question from Dennis. How do people handle insomnia from high cortisol on beef and butter diet? I'm eating very high fat, no caffeine, no drugs, no alcohol.
So he's saying that on a beef and butter diet, he has higher cortisol?
I guess. I guess so. I wonder, Dennis. So, again, not a doctor. This would be a good question for Dr. Kilcher, one of them. But I wonder, talking about those dials again, are you not having enough fat where you're not getting into a deeper stage of ketosis? You're consuming too much meat that's converting, what is it, gluconeogenesis, where it's converting over, maybe causing the high cortisol. I guess the only thing I can say on insomnia is I have talked to several people that do carnivore, and their sleep changes where
My
they'll wake up.
insomnia stopped
Yeah.
from
Most of the
carnivore.
people, the sleep improves, right?
Yeah. So I was up 4 times a night with horrible insomnia. And once that was one of the things after 3 weeks that got better.
Right.
And I'm up, if I'm up once a night now, it's only to use the bathroom and then I go right back to sleep. No insomnia. I'm just wondering about, carnivore does not heal everything. Sometimes you need to work on yourself in other ways, like meditation, like, going outside, in nature, um, and also sleep hygiene at night. Do you have a set bedtime? Do you go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time? Do you have a routine? Do you have and also the blue blocking glasses? They seem to help a lot of people too with insomnia. Wearing them, staying away from bright lights at night and putting the blue blockers on. So there's a lot of other things that you can do besides the carnivore diet to help with insomnia. Staying away from computers and screens and things before bed. That's another sleep hygiene tip. Getting outside, not sitting at your desk all day, getting some exercise during the day. That helps. So, and did you have insomnia before you started the carnivore diet?
Right.
So I don't think the beef and butter diet, it's perhaps giving you more energy.
That's
So
what I
that
was
would
going
be
to
a
say.
good
Yeah.
thing. And like
I've
you're
heard,
waking up earlier. So is that insomnia or are you done sleeping?
right. I've heard from a lot of people, they start carnivore, and this happened to me too for a while. I wake up at 3 a.m, wide awake. And then normally I would stay up for maybe 2 hours and then I'd fall back to sleep again. And I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm only speaking for myself. But what I determined for me is it was just excess energy.
Yep.
Prior to this, it never happened before I was doing carnivore. And I think it was because it requires a lot of energy for the body to process the standard American diet. Even if you're eating a bunch of salads and stuff like that, processing all this roughage over and over again,
Yeah.
your bed hits the pillow, you fall asleep. Now you're doing carnivore, you got this excess energy. I'm really confident that was the case for me because I mentioned this on the live stream the other day, but the girls and I have been working out a lot. And every time I work out, I sleep all night.
Yep.
We had a period where we worked out for 7 days in a row and I missed one day. And the one day I woke up at 3 a.m. again. And I'm like,
That's something.
it's just energy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's for you, Dennis. Maybe it's something else, but you also mentioned cortisol. And I know stress is a big issue that can raise your cortisol. So that could be another thing. If it were me, if I were you, I would look at some of those things. If you're having trouble sleeping, like Diane said, sleep hygiene, exercise, getting fresh air, maybe changing the time you eat could affect your sleep a little bit. But I always ask people too, are you waking up exhausted? Because maybe you just, maybe your body's just like, I'm good. Like that's enough sleep and you're waking up. That was the case for me. It was annoying because it's like, I should be sleeping now. It's 3 a.m. But then I would stay up for a couple hours, usually fall back asleep, and I'd wake up and I'd feel just fine. It wasn't like I was walking around groggy or anything like that. I feel fine. Like I have more energy than I have my entire life after that. So it was just an energy equation, I guess, for me.
And also with cortisol, you have to find the sweet spot. Sometimes you can over-exercise and cause your body to have more cortisol. And if you under-exercise, you have more. So you have to find like maybe just weightlifting, maybe just walking, not running,
Right.
So you've got to find that sweet spot.
That's one other thing too that I think is really important. A lot of people do carnivore perfectly, but they'll still have issues, sleep or depression, anxiety, things like that. Sometimes it's just stress. Have you addressed those things that are causing that stress? You have there's people with cancer too, that they do everything right on carnivore, but they still have this stress, which a lot of people will have if you have cancer. There's not a lot you can do about it, but the stress releases cortisol. Cortisol turns to glucose, and then you're refeeding and kind of perpetuating that. So some of this stuff is easier said than done. But when we filmed Tammy Peterson for the documentary, that was one of the most incredible things, because she's like, I don't know how I did it, but I was just like, I'm not going to let this cancer worry me at all. I'm not going to let it take a toll on me or bother me. And she wasn't just talking. She literally like didn't worry about it at all. And I think that was a big reason that she's still here right now, 6 years later, in remission.
And trauma can cause your body to, to be higher glucose and higher insulin. So any type of assault on yourself like that, having any unresolved trauma, can absolutely raise your cortisol and raise your blood sugar and cause weight gain and cause this whole cascading of things that happen. So like you said, it's just not, I mean, and I really think too, that once people go on the carnivore diet, there's like sometimes these underlying issues come up and they have to resolve them. They kind of like, they come to the surface, and
absolutely. Right. Scooby the dog. This is Ellen, Scooby the dog, Mitch's friend, our friend too. She said, I have not heard anything new as of tonight. A couple of people are asking about Mitch, Old Guy Carnivore. I know today was a very busy day with tests, consults, meeting with docs, etc. Mitch's son says he is reading messages and they're helping. So that's the best you guys can do. Everyone's worried about Mitch, which is wonderful. Send him some support and love. Send him some messages. Go on over to his channel. And Ellen also said she will post updates under Mitch's last live stream. So you just go to Old Guy Carnivore Mitch, go to his channel, find the last live stream. I was on there earlier. I left some support, a little message, but you could see any updates there. And in the Discord group, the Carnivore Community channel.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Diane, for coming on tonight. This has been great.
Thank you, Carrie. This is a lot of fun. I feel like I met some new people, This is really cool. Really cool community.
Inspired some new people. There's quite a few questions in here about MS and people that were in a similar situation to you. So I think your story is really going to inspire some people here.
Well, if anyone has any questions, you can find me at Boston Carnivore Diane Ladd and ask me anything that you have on your mind. I'll be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So everyone go check out Diane's channel as well. Link in the description below. Hope to see a lot of you out at the meetup. If you want to join one of our meetups, it's healinghumanity.movie/events. And then the last thing, I got to shout this out real quick. The team of volunteers we have been working really hard on our membership. Oh, I still got to give the shirt away. Oh my goodness. We got to give the shirt away. We'll give the shirt away right now. I'm sorry. That would have been bad. I was just going to say, our membership site, healinghumanity.life. We had Dr. Georgia Eid on. We had Dr. Baker on. If you need community, some people just need it for 30 days. There's a discount code below. We have courses. We do like 7 or 8 Zoom calls a week, including with the doctor experts, including breaking addictions calls. And you can get 50% off right now. There's a promo code in the description for that. And now we'll give away the shirt that I almost completely forgot to give away. All right, the winner of a Healing Humanity shirt, and thank you all for all your great questions. I don't have the official drum roll sound effect, but we'll just go with it. The winner of a Healing Humanity shirt is Kelly Norman. Congratulations.
Yay.
Kelly Norman, you've won a Healing Humanity shirt. And in order to claim your shirt, I'll put this up on the screen here so you can see it. You have to make sure you're following Diane on YouTube, and then go to healinghumanity.movie/giveaway. There's a little form you can fill out there, and we'll send you out your Healing Humanity shirt. All right. Thank you so much, Diane. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carrie.
Open invite. Look forward to chatting with you again.
Excellent.
And seeing you at another meetup. We'll see you in Boston, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.